Hello there, good evening, welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Matt, and it's an absolute pleasure it really genuinely is a pleasure to be back on the channel and to be talking Celtic with some people, some great people, familiar face, the bearded brother, right hand man, Paddy Boy, and an absolute legend, one of the good guys of the Celtic podcasting world, the Bull Quinny down below. And it's just going to be a shoot the breeze. We know the Super Cup was on. It wasn't that super. If you watched it, we'll talk a wee bit about it. But we're here to shoot the breeze. We're here to talk about what has or maybe what's not been happening in the Celtic world so far, because I know quite a lot of people have been a bit discontent with it. So let's get down to business. Let's get in about it all. But as we do before, how are we, guys? First with yourself, Paddy. Returned from work. Glad to be back.
Yeah, hard shift in the North Sea. Let's call it that. Got home, had my baby girl christened at the weekend as well. Obviously, sorry you couldn't make it, but you were undergoing major surgery. But listen, absolutely fantastic. Had a cracking weekend with the family, and good to be back talking Celtic.
Lovely stuff. And yourself, Quinny, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Bring up the
Cheers.
standard of conversation, perhaps. How have you been keeping?
Hardly. I've been keeping quite well. Busy summer for me, on and off the camera, as it were. This week's been kind of a bit calmer. I know it's only like Monday or whatever, but it's yeah, it's been a good little summer. And great news, obviously earlier today, getting you released from jail. Was it? Is that where you were?
Not quite. I felt like jail. I've still got order. I was in the old Queen Elizabeth. It was in Govan of all places.
Oh,
Yeah,
lovely.
I was in for my back surgery. It was
Some smell
long.
about there, isn't there?
Yeah, it was a bit rough. It was a bit rough, but yeah, the long overdue surgery, 3.5 years in the making. I went in the Thursday. I was told it was standard day procedure, and a couple of complications. I ended up with losing the ability to move my legs for 24 hours, constant pain. I had an infection. I bled a lot. I had a back drain in. So it delayed my return, and it made me a bit disappointed when I saw these people coming in and leaving. But finally, I got to leave the day, and I've never been so excited to jump on and talk about Celtic. I might talk crap, but I'm going to talk about Celtic. So thanks to everybody. And listen, thank you to, there was a lot of folk that actually messaged me and whatnot, and I'm genuinely humbled by that, because I'm just a guy on your telly talking nonsense about Celtic. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And anyway, it's good that everybody's good. Let's get back to business. Let's get down to business. Before we do, as we say, just first and foremost, welcome to the channel. If you're a returning subscriber, as we always say, like the Bold 420, the original, the OG, thank you very much. Cost you nothing to subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. It helps spread the word. If you like it, give it a wee thumbs up, share it, tell your pals, tell anybody that'll listen, get them on board. And if you want to support the channel, you can. It's a wee donation in the members section, just puts it all together. Plenty of ways to get us elsewhere. Paddy, the TikTok man, go and check that out. We're on Bhoys Guy, kinda. We barely use it, but we're there. You can still get us. We're on Spotify, and of course, the most important one, X at CW Pod 1888. So, guys, where to start? I was sitting the past 5 days scouring through all the reports, reading everything, trying to make sense of it, trying to digest it. I watched that garbage. It was a Queen Park game. I think we'll just bypass that like it didn't even happen. Probably shouldn't have even happened. And of course, the Super Cup tonight, which I watched sections of, and I wasn't feeling that it was so super, but it was a run out, and there was maybe some things to talk about it. So let's just start there, and I'll start with you, Paddy, because a guy that I wanted to talk about, which was our young Japanese defender, Inamura. You seemed quite impressed with him. Has Paddy fallen for that pre-season garbage right away?
Listen, when we looked at the guy coming in, obviously next to nothing, he come in for pennies. Brendan Rodgers said he was going to be a developmental player, and we've heard that phrase so many times. But this young lad slotted in at left back like he'd been playing there for years. He looked as if he'd been playing in that team. Obviously, there's a language barrier and things, and I don't know how long he's been training with the first team, but listen, he looked flawless. He didn't make a bad pass. He was controlling the ball. He was decent on the back foot. He had a couple of crosses into the box as well. And I really thought he looked quite promising. Now, I know Kieran Tierney's obviously coming back, and Kieran is going to be a left back. But I'd like to see this young guy as a left centre back to trade basically, but I'd like to see him sitting in there, see how he fares alongside Carter Vickers and stuff like that. Because he looked
Yeah.
comfortable and he looked quite happy to push forward as well. So yeah, I was impressed with him. Well, we
And
managed to 6'5" or something, but yeah, I was impressed with.
yes, I mean that's the thing. Looks can be deceptive. To me, he looks
Listen,
like
he's
a
only
guy
playing Cork as well.
that would
Let's be
get
honest.
blown about like a crisp poke in the wind.
Yeah,
But this time he's a young lad. And yourself, Connie, obviously one of the main sort of parts of your game, if you want to call it that, is you are a bit of a stats man. You're a bit of a deep diver. You like to look at the guys. You like the sort of scouting aspect of it. In terms of Hayato, what's been your general thoughts of it? And obviously tonight, small sample size against Cork. Take it as you find it. It was every bit the bounce game feel. But how you feeling around this signing, and does a performance like tonight, does it really change the trajectory of how your season's going to pan out at all?
I've been quite torn on the signing because when I did the eye test on him myself, like it didn't really jump off the page. It didn't, like in any real way. I didn't go super deep into it, to be quite honest with you. It was quite, recent. I didn't look at everything he's been doing for the last 40 games or whatever he's played, and I just didn't see much left back potential in him as well. So I was really kind of confused more than anything about who he was and what he was. But he played that left back shift tonight. Now, the main context I think for it is the Japanese season has just hit the halfway point. He's halfway in his season, and the Japanese league, by a lot of metrics, is ranked above the Scottish league. Never mind the Irish league. So there's he's at full pace and he's playing against, even though his team is like bottom of the league or whatever, they're relegation scrappers at the moment. Coming into that venue shouldn't have been anything that troubled him. It wasn't, but it was it was nice to see him kind of at times as well. I think in the opening 20 minutes, especially when my focus was quite on the game, he was quite inverted at times as well. He was kind of coming inside of the pitch a little bit, which was interesting as well, because he has predominantly played centre back, and that was something that some of the other statos out there were kind of fancying, that he had the potential to walk into midfield. And it was, he's obviously only did a training session or two, had some pictures taken. But one thing I did find interesting with the developmental comment from Rodgers is they did just give the guy the number 25 shirt. And if you're going to be punting the guy out on loan, that doesn't really sync up for me. So I think he is going to be in the squad, but I think Rodgers' comment, I'm now seeing it after the context of watching him tonight and thinking about the number on his back, is like he's going to be in the squad, but don't be crying for him to play, or don't be saying, "Oh, is this our left back?" and freaking out about it. Everyone just calm down. He's a boy we're bringing in, and we'll deal with it. Kind of vibes.
Well, that's the thing. And in case you're wondering what the hell is going on here, this is a wee. Instead of me sitting here and reading them out to you, you can see with your own eyeballs. This is Inamura's. He says his detailed stats from everybody's favourite stats website, Transfer Market, and this you can get a wee there. Self-explanatory. The Bhoys, how many times he's hit the pitch. The far ends, how many minutes he's been there. And you can see the green. That's going to be the black's a goal. The green's an assist. So it's very much as busy. It's a small sample size. You can see that there. But an interesting thing on that, what you said about the manager, was this, and I brought this up. Excuse the BBC here, but there's the quote there directly from the manager himself, where he says that he sees him as a young player, and whether he stays in the squad or not, he may go out on loan. A young player full of promise and potential. That's what they're talking about here. It sounded to me, whenever we looked at Brendan talking about this, and this has been the big question, straight out, no, he won't be. He's part of an investment for the club. A lot of people didn't like that phrase, an investment for the club. Now, we know in the modern game, Quinny, a lot of it is stats-driven buys. A lot of them are stats-driven buys, and there'll be analysts and they'll look at it and they'll be thinking, what's the system we do, what's the metrics, and they'll get these guys in, and it looks that that's maybe an early sight of Celtic putting that into practice. Those stats, and they are what they are. I don't know how players or statos manage those and think that's fantastic, that's exactly what Celtic need. As you say, it's then counterintuitive. He gets a sort of relatively low squad number, suggests he's going to be in it. He plays tonight. I suppose you want to see what you've got. Maybe it is a bit of a dilemma there. But the big thing that a lot of people were saying and getting sort of concerned about was it seems like a club buy over a Rodgers buy. Now, I want to give you a chance because before we came on, you had a wee sort of idea around about how you think the transfers might be panning out, and I found it very interesting. If you wish to share, which was, what are we going to get from this transfer window? The concerns are that some of the way that the business has been going, but it's sort of been slowing down, it's been bitty here and there, targets that we've been long linked with, it's slowing down, pivoting, moving away from them, random names coming out. Some are thinking it suggests Rodgers isn't going to be committing. He's going to do his year, he's going to disappear. God forbid he might even leave prior to that. I don't believe that, but I've heard that. What's your thoughts on it? Do you think there'll still be this heavy lean on club buys versus what the manager wants and actually needs?
Well, in the context of the club and the manager kind of thing, like Celtics are here, the YouTube channel I kind of do all the content for, we were invited to Rodgers' press conference when he get returned, when he got unveiled the second time around. And the question I asked to him on that one was, and you can go check out, it's on our channel, it's still on the Celtic channel as well, I'm sure. But I asked him a question to the tune of something like, what did they show you in that presentation in Mallorca? It must have been pretty good to get you to come back. That was the crux of it, and it's not worded too dissimilar. It's quite direct, if I can say so. And he came back with like the Lobel's son, I forgot his name now, Mark or whatever, and the untapped markets of the Japanese and all the rest of it. But the punchline of his answer was, the club are going to get me players, and I'm going to manage them. I'm going to develop them. That was his kind of chat then when he first came back. Obviously, things have changed and other things have been said since then. But I do think that is like an element of the club. I mentioned to you guys before I came on, like the business we've done so far, and especially some of the business that we're rumoured to be on the verge of doing. If we do all of it, I'm actually quite happy with it for where we are at the moment for the most part, for a couple of reasons. I think one of them I would want to put into the conversation here is, we never want to lose our best players season upon season. We know that sometimes you need to sell them, you make lots of money or whatever. But the clubs like us that can hold on to players a little bit longer, got a really strong bank balance and all the rest of it, which we are kind of getting into the situation of being that financial kind of shot caller now. But also the pressure of you do want income and money all the time comes from elsewhere in the squad, and we've had some great examples recently of like Bernabe. We might get some money for we just got some money for Frimpong, which was in the oven for about 5 years or something, that one. So buying Inamura's, Negren's a bit different, but Osmond and one or two of these other ones that we've been linked to recently that are like Isaac Johnson from Rapid Vienna. He's been linked around the 3 million mark as well. The club needs to have a kind of stock of players that, and Lager Bielke and the Rocky, let's see how they pan out in full once they get sold on and closet. But
of course, yeah,
we want to be making money on like all these little players as well, as much as we can. Can they do a job for us? No. But have we scouted them well enough that we're not going to, in Lager Bielke, I think we're losing a bit of money on initially, and we're not always perfect with this. But that's the game you're kind of playing, so that you don't have that pressure to sell Hayato this summer. You don't have that pressure to sell Kuhn or O'Reilly or whoever you want to name. So to do that, you need to bring lots of guys in, because we're not producing youth players to be able to play that game with to the same level anyone would want. So I don't mind volume. I don't mind cheap volume if it's well kind of ID'd. And the thing I was saying to you guys before we came on is I think this window is going to be a two-stager. It's all going to be about getting ready for the Champions League qualifier. And I've been saying on the channel quite a lot recently, it's kind of one of two things, or maybe it's one and the same, but I've got this kind of hunch that Brendan's either been told, anyone under 5 million, you don't need authorization for, you don't need that, phone call and a green light conversation or a board meeting or whatever for, or he's been given like a soft budget of like 12 million quid or whatever, and been told again, spend it how you want, get us ready for the qualifiers. Because Negren happened really quick. Inamura's happened quite quick. And Celtic are known for kind of dragging their heels, and these fees are all very nominal, and we're just running them over the line, it seems. So, I said that comment from Kaiser totally threw me there. I thought I said something else when I read it at first, but it's caught me up now. So I think we're going to get to, and again, we won't know this until the fullness of time, right? But I think we're going to get maybe a bit more business in the vein that we've had now, and it lines up with the rumours that we've had. We'll go into the Champions League qualifier. All things being well, we qualify. and then Rodgers will go into the market and buy this season's trusty Engels Ida. You'll go and spend 30 million on 3 guys or something.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to stay solely on that, obviously, with the Inamura thing, and I'll bring this up here in case we didn't really mention it, we've done it in passing. We'll gloss kind of ever so quickly over the game, because I really don't think we learned too much from this match. We certainly, in my eyes, learned nothing from the Queen's Park game. These games literally are, to cliche, is to get the minutes into the legs. There's the starting lineup as we saw it. You know, the names that will stick out here were obviously Inamura, McGregor, Engels, I thought. Engels, McCowan, McGregor, you know, tidy as you'd expect there. Likewise with Forrest. Trusty, again, it was what it was, wasn't too bad. But Imamura will just stick on him there. And the San Francisco was kind of, it's funny. People say, you know, he's garbage, he's this, he's that, and he can't play. And now he's a decent outing against Cork and say it's unfair or it's too early to judge him. That's unfortunately, Paddy, going to be the sort of sticky situation that we find ourselves in, isn't it? You really have, there's no harm in being positive, but at the same time, we've also got to sort of caveat it. We've also got to look at the manager's very on the nose, statement. That may well change, as Quinny says, but it essentially says that he wasn't for first team. So the manager's kind of judging him before a ball's even been kicked as well, to that extent. So that is where I'm at with that one. But do you much prescribe into what Quinny's been saying? And I think it maybe does make sense where there's a kind of two-part budget. There's the pre-budget and then there's the after-budget. The middle ground will always be what the fans want, which is, why is there not the just take care of business budget? You know, buy the players with a view or a mindset of, you know, we will qualify for the Champions League, so it won't really matter. But then as the fallback comes, if God forbid you didn't make the Champions League, it's not disastrous. You have a drop down in finance and money, but you also have a much stronger side to tackle Europa League. You know, the flip side of that is if we have this wee pre-budget and we play and we do just enough, we don't qualify for the Europa League. Are we going to go and spend much more? Probably not. So what you've got is probably what you've got to tackle the Europa League. Would you rather just do what we never really do and completely roll the dice, mate?
Aye. We spoke about it previously, about Celtic not making a marquee signing until they sell somebody, like when I'd said there, Matt O'Reilly. When we sold Matt O'Reilly, then we knew we were going to get replacements, we knew we were going to spend money. And I remember you done the cover, Steve, and it was always about Celtic selling that main asset and then making the signings thereafter, but still posting profit come the end of it. Go down the line, guys like Odson Edward, Jota, Tierney. Like, there was all these guys who were sold and made that massive profit, and then that's where it kind of came in. I would like to see Celtic had a fantastic season last year, made amazing revenue. We know the club have got the money. Guys who we've been linked with, Balakwisha and all of these other guys, I would like to see us just go out there and go, right, do you know what, 6.5 million, yes, there you go. How much do you like for him? Yes, there you go. Yeah, you're going to get bargains like we did with Nigrin and things like that, but I want the business done. I want to go into these Champions League games. Fair enough, it's a qualifier and you're going to be against lesser quality sides, basically, but I want to go in there with my strongest side. You want to go in and give them an absolute lesson. You want to show, yeah, listen, we're coming through. We're going to go for this. We're going to make a bit of an impression here. So I'd love to see that, but I can see where Quinny's coming from. I can see the idea of, yes, wait till you get that across the line. Wait till you're guaranteed that Champions League money. Obviously, this year, I take it's going to be the same group stage again as what it was last year. So financially, then you look at that and you think, yeah, Celtic will do relatively well out of this again. You're talking another 30, 40 million upwards again. Possible revenue coming in. And it's the Champions League football for me is that attracts the bigger players as well. So I get that side of it. But for me, I would like to see business done a little bit quicker. I would like to see it pushed a wee bit forward. And I'd like to hear, obviously, Brendan Rodgers coming out and telling people that he's had a hand in some of the signings rather than just saying, yeah, this player's one that's been handed to me by the club. You know what I mean? That's
in terms of the game, just because I don't want to completely forget about it, I've obviously brought up the teams there. The one thing that I was sort of looking for was the defensive options, if you will. You know, Quinn alluded to some of the changes. There's been a lot of movement. You know, we'll gloss over that at some point, but obviously we know that Mike Narotsky's moved on. We've got Lagerbielke, pretty much that's absolutely solid. We've got Welsh. We'll get on to Welsh, unfortunately. But was there any much takeaways from you from that first half? Particularly, I'm looking more at Austin Trusty, because at this moment in time, Austin Trusty is the big elephant in the room. He's the big expensive sort of centre back that we thought was going to be coming in. He was going to be the mainstay. We now learn of issues, would be surgery to Carter Vickers. Not ideal, far from it. And as I say, with the guys going out there, with Inamura coming in, no harm to the guy, good start, but I would still not be wanting to throw him in to a Champions League qualifier by any stretch of the imagination. Was there any takeaways, anything that caught your eye from any of the main players, or particularly the likes of a Trusty, who had to prove a point, shall we say?
To be fair, Trusty didn't really have much to do. Your opposition wasn't the greatest, we'll say that. There wasn't really any main chances that he had to deal with. Cork's striker was pretty quick. The guy wanted to have a shot every now and then. Every time he got the ball, he was just basically cracking it from wherever he got it. I thought Trusty looked relatively comfortable. I always allude back to the Atalanta game when we talk about Trusty, because for me that was his performance. That was the best performance I've ever seen him play in a Celtic jersey. So that's what I want from him on a weekly basis. Other players wise, I thought McCown looked okay. He was quite comfortable on the ball, pinging it about. James Forrest was direct as usual. Obviously,
what about your favourite player, Arne Engels? This is like I've told you. This is his pre-season, mate. This is his turning point. I could be about a link-up play prior to that goal, I thought,
Listen, Arne Engels looked like he was playing with slippers on. Again, it was just he's elite class. He's above that kind of level. I want to see him.
Hold on, stop the bus. Paddy said it. He's elite class. You're not taking that back now. Season's not started, right? I'm going to wheel that out at 2026 hours on the 8th of the 7th. That's you said it. Okay? You go die in that hill now.
Yeah, that's it. Listen, I've said it before. I would love to see the guy progress. I'd love to see him push on. I do feel like he's been playing slightly out of position, and I feel like I stand by the fact that him and Callum McGregor don't really play well together. I think they're very, very similar. They both like to break up the play. They both like to get involved and push forward as well. So I think there is a bit of a wee kind of judgment to make there. But yes, Arne Engels looked good. I thought Kenny was lacklustre, was just poor, had a shot, had a chance, blew it. Other than that, mate, I don't think there was really any of the kind of big mainstays. I thought the young guy Summers looked good as well. He was on the left with Inamura. He looked really good. Francis Turley we do like. McArdle, I thought end of last season he was fantastic. He didn't have much to do here. But yeah, listen, there's a lot of players in there that you could highlight. Osmond had a chance. He was clean through maybe 10 minutes into the second half, and he basically just passed it to the keeper. I thought the young lad's obviously maybe seen his name in lights and thought, here we go, I'm getting a pre-season goal here, and part of the bed.
It wasn't to be able to let you wrap up before we talk about the more pressing issues of where we're going to be going, Quinny. Second half, all changed, complete change. We see there the big elephant in the room we'll go on to, of course, is Mr. Welsh. And of course, we got Osmond that comes on. From that there, was there anything that I've got to say I quite liked, again, early stages, right? I quite liked the look, Quinny, of young Osmond. I thought he looked like he had a good touch. He looked quite mobile. He got himself about. He's a player that I want to see. And again, I'll say it right now. I know it's an early start. Young Inamura, play him alongside more familiar players and really get a feel for what he's got to offer. Obviously, you can't replicate the pressures and the atmospheres of big games, because I was surprised. See, for it being in Ireland, it was like awake at times. It was pretty poor in terms of that atmosphere. But I liked what I saw Osmond. Thought he looked like he had all the potentials. And compare and contrast versus Johnny Kenny, who we've been singing his praises and wishing for all the best. He looked better than Johnny Kenny to me, mate. Any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I thought Osmond did well as well. I would say back on the Inamura one, because I did a bit of the eye test kind of thing I done was a bit of content as well. So some of the jabs in the chat are directly aimed at me on that one, in terms of writing them off and then saying, "Oh, it's Cork, so don't get too carried away." And like, never wish the kid harm. Obviously, want to see him do well, but I think the main context around Inamura initially was the initial chat from people was it was like the next centre back for the team, like to replace Trusty or Scales or whatever, and
Yeah.
that's just not the case, obviously. So we'll wish him all the best and good start, as you say, good first impression is a way to go. And I think Osmond's pretty much in the same camp. I think expectations are low in terms of just like what his importance will be to the squad. But again, Hitman and Namura both kind of smack of the, we don't have anyone in the academy to fill this spot in the team. So we're just kind of plucking another prospect from somewhere else for a nominal value very quickly, very easily, get them in the squad and kind of bring them into the fold for that little bit of extra depth and cover. Because last year we really suffered for it. We had Ida and Kyogo, as we know. Later we had to rely upon Dyson. But we couldn't keep O to be number 3. And without O being number 3, we eventually needed to bring Kenny back in January. And the number 3 striker, it's not too far off the number 3 goalkeeper in terms of like how bleak your week must be, So it's a tough shift to get someone in for, and it's it's one of those ones that's high value. If you get these guys popping up when they do and they score a goal or two, it can be the difference between a draw and a win, for example. So yeah, get good kind of early start. I've been really excited to see some of these guys from the B team play in these games, like especially the first half we've seen in both these matches, because we've seen like McGregor, Engels, McKibben playing midfield with Trusty, with some of the B guys. And, he brought up the graphic there for the second half. But Kobe Donovan came back off the bench to replace Welsh and eventually gets the goal.
He does, yes.
Yeah. And Kobe Donovan, like, is a player that when I've watched the Youth Champions League, I would definitely put him in my top 4 or 5 prospects in the squad because he's like super young compared to the rest of them. He's like 17, 18. The rest of them are in their early 20s as a kind of average. And again, it's not a great compliment, but it is a great compliment. He just doesn't do anything wrong. Nobody mugs him off. He doesn't make mistakes. And I was at the Queen's Park game. I was like 4 rows from the back, 4 rows from the front with my son. It's close as he's ever been to the players. It was a good buzz.
Brilliant.
And Trusty did a really good job, I think, in that match. I can say that because I was so close to it. This one, it's hard to say. But see, without Scales or Vickers, like, he is the commander at the back, especially with the goalkeeper not being Schmeichel or whatever. So
yeah,
I know it's Queen's Park and it's Cork, but that's good for him, to get into that kind of character, as it were, within the squad and getting used to pulling the line up or telling guys where to pass and that sort of thing. So I think Trusty, it can only get better, So I know he wasn't everyone's cup of tea last year. I make he's all quite right on the Atalanta stuff. But the Zagreb game, I only really get reminded about this when I did that kind of report card video for Trusty, as it were. But the Zagreb game, if you go back and look at it, like, he was brilliant. Like, he played left back at times. See, when we were throwing the kitchen sink at them for about 5 or 10 minutes, it wasn't that long. He was popping up in like proper left back from centre back. So he's got strings to his bow. He wasn't perfect, and I think hopefully this year he gets a little bit better. Same as Engels, kind of the same thing. But I think with Engels, his best form for me has been when he's been on the left of midfield. Normally, Tate plays that spot. The role they play is different. But I think when he's coming into the pitch with the right foot, he's just got a range. He's got more options. He's got different things he can do. And I think he seems happier on that side of the pitch, rather than being on the right-hand side. And he's got to get himself really wide on the touchline. And he's got to have the overlap. And he's got to have someone to play with. Otherwise, all he can do is outswing her into the box, isn't it? So,
and that's the thing. Hopefully, as Dom's saying,
hope for them all.
Hopefully he'll pick up. We're not writing these guys off. We come on, we criticise at times, but it's based on what we saw with our eyes for that 90 minutes or consecutive matches. And yeah, I hope that he does pick himself up, because this now brings us straight on. We'll just start down below with yourself, because you were on a wee roll there talking about the defensive side of things, Quinny. Stephen Welsh, I just need to say it. It's unfortunate for the guy. It's really unfortunate. The wee list of things. Let's talk it ins and outs. We've got Lager Bielka on his way. He's penned an emotional letter. He's going away to Braga. We have, of course, more on the way out. Narotsky goes to Hanover with an option to buy. Lagerbielke, I don't know if he was one that was worth trying again, but manager's made his mind up on. I feel real sorry for Nawrocki. I thought he was a guy that showed something. I am surprised it was allowed to go. So we start to whittle down the options, and that's where the urgency of needing to do something comes in. Welsh comes back. Michelin very keen, want to take him back. And his shoulder falls off again, or so it appears. I don't mean to mean light as a guy that's just been, in agony and injured myself, but as Al says here, it astonished me how a player like Stephen Welsh can still be at the club. He goes one further and says he's absolutely honking. Right, okay. I'm not saying getting injured equates to you being absolutely honking, but what I will say is it is just sod's law for Celtic, is it not? At a moment in time where we're going to start ramping up, friendlies are going to be a wee bit more competitive, league's round the corner, we're looking at that Champions League. People are worrying enough at the prospect of saying the selection process is going to be between Trusty, Welsh and Scales. It's not between them anymore. A, does it hinder his move? And B, where are you at? What do we have to do with Stephen Welsh? I feel sorry for the guy. All the best, speedy recovery in that. But I'm saying partly speedy recovery and please just move on. We just kind of keep going round in this cycle. So, no, sorry, that was you, Quinny. Aye, that was yourself.
Yeah,
sorry.
I don't mind.
I should have said that.
I think he's kind of had chance after chance in that way, and like the injuries just keep coming back. That's been our main problem with him. Is like I think he'd be quite happy to be the fifth choice centre back. By all accounts, it feels like he'd be all right to do that, or fourth choice maybe. He seems quite able or willing to do the Ralston shift in that way, but it feels like Rodgers probably fancies Dane Murray for that. And I think with the Nawrocki and Lagerbielke kind of thing, I think Rodgers has decided they're too slow more than anything. So I think aerially Lagerbielke was fantastic whenever I seen him on the ball, a bit different. Nawrocki was kind of everything except fast. And Welsh is kind of a watered down version of Nawrocki, you would say, isn't he? So I don't think they've got a future in the squad, barring the whole homegrown eligibility, which Dane Murray kind of offers and seems to be a bit closer to the first team than the manager's thoughts. He's partnered Trusty from the start in both the friendlies now. Manager's name checked him a few times often enough, even though he's been injured. So I think as long as Murray's fit, I don't think the manager even thinks about Welsh.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? I mean, Paddy, where are you at with it? And as you're saying, I'm a bit amped up, San Fran. I have been sitting, stewing for the past 5 days of just looking and going, we are a shambles. I've got a lot to get off my chest, a lot in my mind. It's amazing what a good period in hospital will do to you. But no, that just tipped me over the edge tonight. I was like, oh, here we go. Welsh is injured again. What do we do? Paddy, please make sense of it for me. Because is this suddenly going to be something that's going to amp us up and ramp up the requirement to go and get a proper defender in with a view of that Champions League qualifier, or are we going to do what we've done season after season after season? Are we going to mend, beg and borrow? Is it going to be another Beaton-esque centre-half situation? Is it going to be, and again, no disrespect him because he had a good start, is it going to be, excuse the French, fuck it, I'm a mover into centre-half, let's do it because he's there and see what happens?
I don't think we'll go out and buy another big centre half. I think Brendan Rodgers has got his mind kind of set that it was obviously going to be Carter, Vickers and Trusty. The other ones in there were just going to be backups basically. Stephen Welsh being a local lad, I don't really want to get too much on his back. I felt like the keeper did give him a shout and then mess up. And obviously he was at fault for the goal, we'll give him that. But it just doesn't fill me with confidence. He's not typical Celtic quality. Like Quinny says, you've seen Dane Murray coming in before and he does the simple things very, very well. He's quite quick. I thought Rocky, for me, was the one that we should have kept in that position. We spoke about that before after the Rangers game and things like that. I thought he was outstanding, and then he gets dropped for the next week and you're just like, what does this guy have to do to actually get into the squad? When Paul spoke to Frank McAvenny at the golf event that you guys were invited to, Frank McAvenny said the exact same thing. Like, what does this guy have to do to be a stayer in the Celtic team, because for me, did he put a foot wrong? And it's somebody like that I want in there. Don't need to be the quickest player. I don't want people in there that are going to be absolutely rapid, but see if you can do the simple things and do them well. That's all I want. I want a kind of Bobo Baldi type player that's just going to put the ball out of the park. If in doubt, put it in Rose Ed. Simple as that. You had Stan Varga and Bobo Baldi in that team back 2003 when you think about it, and they weren't the quickest players, but they were no nonsense, and you didn't get by them. That's for me what you want for your centre backs, and to have your left backs, your right backs, giving them a bit of cover. And I think you'll get that with Alistair Johnson and Kieran Tierney if you've got people in there who they can trust. So for me, I don't think we'll go out and get a marquee centre half. I don't think that's going to be the way that we do business. Possibly a loan signing, maybe bring somebody in like that that's going to be a kind of team player base.
I think that's a good segue, and I don't know if yourself, Quinny, doing your own channel and doing what you've been doing at Celtic here and your own analysis, I think you've covered this. What I just brought that up here as well, as Ian says, for long periods, Starfelt was slagged off for being a sort of meat and two-veg defender. He was something of the old school, but I think once you sort of remove him from it, you really see what you were missing. We always said that Carter Vickers could make anybody beside him look like a Rolls Royce, but even when you remove Carter Vickers, there was periods where Starfelt still made people beside him look good, because he would do the down and dirty stuff and let these ball players go about it and maraud around and sort of get the passing game down. Now, a name that came up, I don't want to go through, we'll do a wee show, maybe myself and Paddy or one of the other guys, and we'll go through the sort of proper rumours. I'll maybe just touch on them here, but I thought that's a good segue, and I don't know if you know much of the name that I'm about to bring up here, Quinny, but it is this Dutch defender who I shall share here. Again, this is another one that's came out of nowhere, and this is what I kind of think is where we sometimes get this idea that where are Celtic with their sort of recruiting, and it's this chap here, which is Justin de Haas, playing in Portuguese league for Famalicão. Now, looking at him, we talk about what's a Brendan Rodgers player, what's the type of player that Celtic need. One thing, otherwise we're crying out for his height. Well, he's no short of that at 6'4". He's a centre back, left-sided, tick, 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 tick so far. But this is the big Quinny that really threw me. This is a name that's been coming up, and of all the links, there's been another couple of defenders that have been mentioned as well, like the chap for Le Havre. That seems unlikely, but this one has kept coming round, and it's been fairly decent reports that have been coming out. The sources have been fairly good on it. However, talking about what we had, what we've let go of, I hear the terms slow as treacle, slow as a week in the jail. I've seen a cruise ship turn faster and all that kind of stuff. Well, de Haas apparently is all of these things. He's supposed to be very robust, very strong, very good in the tackle, good in the air, but, quote, not a ball-playing footballer and a no-nonsense defender. As Paddy says, someone who will literally just boot it into Rose Ed. Now, here's his detailed stats, a healthy enough sort of profile. 171 senior games, 22 goals for what that's worth from a defender, 19 assists, and if we look at the discipline, which you'll always look at a defender, 19 yellow cards, over 10,000 minutes on the pitch. Sorry, I've looked at the wrong one. I've just shared the wrong one. I'm looking at somebody completely different. You can tell I'm just at the hospital, can't you? Let me bring him up. I've got him here, sorry. My apologies to every single one of you. Here he is here. Justin de Haas. Are you getting Justin de Haas on your screen, chaps? Yes, you are.
Yes.
My apologies. I just showed you the boy for Rapid Vienna. There you go. I've got that many things going on, but no.
We had this one on screen the whole time. We just couldn't see the minutes
you just couldn't see the minutes. My apologies. I've showed you the wrong bit there. So if we fly down to his detailed stats, he's got a decent body, a time on the pitch. But as I say, the key points is that he's supposed to be no nonsense, a guy that'll boot it into Rose Ed, very much like Starfelt. So there we've got it there. He's got 215 senior games, quite a lot there. There's some European experience, low level type stuff, career stats, playing in the Portuguese league at this moment in time. It might not blow you away. 3 goals there, a couple of goals here and there, but it looks not too bad. I think in terms of the profile of the strength, the height, all that kind of stuff, that's what people are shouting out for. She says, look at the minutes. There we go. The minutes are heavy duty. 17,000, quite a lot across all levels. His time playing, it is what you want. However, we have just got rid of Nawrocki. We're just about to get rid of Lagerbielk. We've got Welsh, who again were criticised for that, and even Trusty's getting sort of criticised for certain elements of his game. What makes him any different, Quinny? What makes him any different? Is this somebody that surprises you?
I think it's a big surprise. I don't think it's Champions League level, like on any metric, pre-budget, all the stuff we're chatting about earlier, even adding that into context. I've had a week kind of going over this guy as well. And yeah, I don't know. Like, I thought the only way, especially with the Inamura thing in the background, and when you look at the squad and you remove Lagerbielke and Nawrocki and whatever, the squad does get quite thin again, once we move these players on. So I wasn't sure if there's maybe some sort of double play with this guy, if he's maybe a bit of a centre back and a bit of a left back, and between him, Scales, and Inamura, they find a place to make it all work somehow behind Tierney and Trusty.
Yeah.
But he's never played for a top team. He's never played European football. Like, it's just not a defender I want to be bringing into the squad where we're at the moment. Like for backup, like okay, I probably won't greet about it. But again, we've just tried this with Nawrocki and Lagerbielke, spending 3-4 million quid on randoms, from across Europe that nobody's heard of, never came up on anything for anyone ever. And yeah, like if he signs, I'm sure he'll be fine enough. It can't be any worse than the last two we've just named. Not to be disparaging towards anyone, but like he's not going to be the professional footballer. He's not. It will be a level of. He'll have a floor on how good he is at the very least, certainly. But yeah, I just don't see why this guy comes into the reckoning. 25 transfer fees. He's in the last 12 months of his contract. I'm hoping it's kind of paper chat more than anything on that one, but I just don't get. I don't get it. It might be fine, but I just don't get it.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the sort of career transfer history. There's nothing there that's blowing you away. Small fees, nominal fees at best. He's never really played for a particular side that you're sitting and going, "Wow, that's impressive to have on your CV." Age bracket, I think, yes, it's roughly in that pocket where we want to be signing players. But again, you're also looking for a body of work that sort of makes you sit and stand up and go, "Yeah, that's great." But Paddy, I'll just throw it just for the question of balance. Could it be a Starfelt-esque signing where he's maybe just that plan B that you need, that is sometimes you don't have the guy that's got the fancy feet work, he's not got the great range of passing, but he will just be the battering ram that will throw himself at everything, get out of the way and give it to those who can? Or is this, some people are saying, Quinny's alluded to perhaps, how does he fit into a system? Is the system, the Brendan football system, so dialed in that there is no room for deviation? There's room for rogues, but not room for rogues at the back.
I would like to say that change is as good as a holiday sometimes. You know what I mean? By that, like, if you're getting a defender in there that's not, like you say, brilliant with the ball and he's not going to mess about at the back. How many times we've been watching a game and you've got rapid forwards sprinting at Carter, Vickers and Trusty, and your heart's in your mouth, you're just like, kick it anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, just get it away. And I would like to be a wee bit relaxed knowing that that's all right. If the ball goes back to Big de Haas, he's going to punt it away. No hassle there. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be straight up the park towards somebody like Diza Maeda or Jamesy Forrest, whoever's going to be on the wings, just running onto the ball, nice and easy.
Wants daft up. Don't you want daft
aye,
up? No.
Aye, listen, that's it. Route A, Route 1, just pump it straight up the park. It's worked for so many teams over the years. It works against us. We've got Scales and Taylor at left back and left centre back. Let's be honest, it's happened there so many times and we were screaming for it. I just want somebody in there that's going to be no nonsense. I really do. I keep alluding to that. And for me, your defender's there just to get the ball to fuck, pardon the French. That's what I want. I don't want my defenders playing about and having the most touches of the ball. Like, you look at previous games, and you've got Carter Vickers with 400 touches of a ball and Rusty with the exact same and things like that. I want my defender to punt the ball up the park to the guys who can actually do the magic and score goals and assists and whatever else. Do you know what I mean? That's what I want.
Yeah, well,
Call me old-fashioned, but that's just me.
Before we sort of drift on, it would be remiss to not mention those that have moved. Who says Lager's gone, Naroki's gone. Now, this is just whilst we're on that, this really interests me about perceptions and what people see in players and what certain managers or whatever see in a player to want to sign them or whatever. Narotsky's went to Hanover, right? Bundesliga 2, so you take that stand as you'll find it, right? Did any of you happen to see the quote from like the sporting director of Hanover regarding no, I've just paraphrased it. Now, it reads brilliant. And I'll wait to hear this. This is how he describes Malik Narotsky. His game is characterised by composure. Right? This is what he says. So he anticipates and reads the game very well, defends very well, with good tackling and heading. He carries the ball clearly and purposefully into the park and moves the passes well into the gaps. Now, I like Malik Narotsky, right, but I don't know what Malik Narotsky he's seen there, right, because I thought he looked good in those few games that we've seen him, but Quinny, what does this guy that I've just read, what does his scouting system see in that Brendan Rodgers didn't see in the time that he had him at his disposal?
Well, I'll say you'll remember that there was points in this season when the Rocky didn't even get on the bench, and people were like, "That where the hell is he? And what's going on with him?" To then get game time all of a sudden, and on my channel, I was calling it, "This is highlight reel time." You know, his agents managed to get him time on the pitch to go and put a highlight package together to go and get him moved. So I think if you took his highlights from this season and leaned them against those quotes, it probably looks spot on. You know, like it's probably like everything he did this year encompassed into a couple of sentences, you know, in the 4 games he played or whatever. So
they've watched his YouTube video, basically. That's what you're saying there,
Quinny. The magic of the agent, you know, I think for that one. I think just to bring Starfelt into or just to kind of talk on that, I think the thing with Starfelt and Carter Vickers is both of them are great 1v1 defenders, and that's on the halfway line or on the edge of the box. You know, like 1v1, man for man, shoulder to shoulder. You know, you're happy to have them in your team all day. On the ball is kind of where everything kind of falls down. And this big de Haas guy, like, because with no Starfelt, Trusty and Scales can be good 1v1 defenders, but they have also shown that they have weaknesses and people can catch them in different ways. So I can see the value in kind of adding that into defence, because you do need that kind of composure, that kind of stability. But when you are looking at these guys before they come in and actually make the step up, the number one thing you're asking is, like, what have they shown to like? Because we're aspiring to be Champions League. We're aspiring to be back in that group stage, finishing top 24 or whatever it is, top 22, and getting 10 matches again this season. Maybe even going one better and getting 12 matches. And the guy, if he's a great no-nonsense defender and all the rest of it, can come into the fold and maybe just beef up the ranks to make sure that when we need to rotate against Ross County and St Johnstone and blah, whoever, he can just kind of hold the fort. See, I don't mind that. But I think if you want another Starfelt level guy in the team, like, again, I would probably say with the de Haas guy, why it really, this got me with Palma and it gets me with this guy. Palma's a bit different, right? But Palma was at Aris in Greece. I don't even know where they finished in the league when we signed them. 4th, 5th, 6th or 7th or whatever. We just sold Lagerbielke to Braga. Why have Braga not bought de Haas? Like, what is... Why is Lagerbielke more appealing to them than de Haas? And fair enough, there's maybe £1 million in it, right? But if he's good enough for us to sign, you know, like, that's just something I don't compute. If Palma was that good, why is Panathinaikos not bought him? Or Olympiacos or somebody like that? You know, why is he struggling to find a club and his agent's knocking the doors of every team in Glasgow kind of thing? And with that de Haas guy, again, that's just one of those, I'm like, you know, these other teams are signing centre-backs. And if he was good, like Braga in the Europa League this year, like we're in the chat, you know, so why, you know, like, so there's just things like that don't wrangle with.
Does that surprise you, Quinny? Because that's always the question that I ask, right? Where I look at guys that we offload and people take them on now. As Paddy and I said before, not every guy will be a success. Actually, some players, they can't settle, they maybe don't fit the system, the pressure maybe gets them, so on and so forth. Narotsky, I liked what I saw. But undoubtedly as well, you could also argue and say some people say he's found his level. Bundesliga, you know, and Bundesliga 2 in Germany, that's fine. He should coast it there. He'll be okay, right? Because again, if you compare the Polish league when he was at Leicester, yeah, it's a good season before it comes to Celtic, but Polish league by itself isn't fantastic. But again, as you say, you look at guys like Lager Bielka, and now they go to 20, they have a good sort of bit of form there. They're interested, might want to buy him. And likewise, you get, as we've just said, the aforementioned same guy wanting to go to Braga. Braga, not a bad team. They're always in that pocket, sort of top 4, top 5. Are they going to have the same pressures expectancy as Celtic? Absolutely not. But they're probably playing week in, week out at a better standard, and probably with their limited resources, they're outperforming what they are. So I always ask the question is, how come these guys are good enough for them but aren't good enough for Celtic? Because reality is that yes, there's an expectancy to win every single week, but if you take away the odd big game, you know, your games against Rangers or maybe a crunch game here and there against Aberdeen or Hearts, and then your Champions League games, really you should be able to coast 70-75% of the games that you play for Celtic if you've got something about you. So I always find that strange, and I don't know what your thoughts on that. Is it just, as I say, sometimes it doesn't work out?
I think that's a big part of it. Like Bernabe's a fantastic example of that. How like he gets shouts to be in the Argentina team after going out on loan to International or whatever, you know, and he couldn't get on the bench for us, you know, which is so. I think there's a culture thing there for sure. I think that's why Valley didn't hang about. You know, you might remember the game he gets subbed off at halftime against Ross County or Aberdeen. I forget which one it was, but it was up north, and he was never seen again. So I think that's a part of it. But like I said with Starfelt's a great defender from the halfway line or the edge of the box. And some of those guys, like Lager-Bielke, for us, needs to be on the halfway line a lot. For Braga,
Yes.
how often do they put centre-backs on the halfway line?
Well, that's
Probably
true.
less.
I suppose it's different style. But that was a good, as you mentioned, Via there, that's a good sort
Very
of
kind.
one to sort of segue in, because he's at Como. Who's going to Como, Paddy? Nicholas Kuhn, right? It was seen coming all day long. He moves on. We get a wee bit more money. I must be honest, quite surprised that he goes to Como over RB. Maybe thought he'd want to go back home to Germany, prove a few points in a league that he was, you know, previously there, didn't make the grade, want to go back. Ultimately, maybe about money, because I believe that we're getting an extra £2.5 million out of it once it's obviously converted down from the Euro situation. But yeah, so he moves on. He finds himself getting out there at Como, all signs sealed, delivered, and ready to go. Is it a good thing, Paddy, that it's happened in terms of that? He's moved on. Are you satisfied with that? And of course, how quickly do you expect the replacement to come in? Because Benjamin Negrin isn't the replacement.
Yeah, I think we'll get somebody in very similar, but like we had said before, when we sold Matt O'Reilly, we got in Arne Engels, who wasn't, in my opinion, a direct replacement. He played in the same position, but he wasn't a similar type player. Now, I don't think we will get in someone who's a similar type player to Nicholas Kuhn unless we get your man from Antwerp, Michelangelo Balikwisha. I think he's a very similar type player, likes to push forward, likes to be direct, likes to cut inside, get a decent shot. I think somebody like him would be ideal. But I'd just like to see him bring in somebody who is going to be, like, who's going to drive for the byline. We speak about it all the time. Nicholas Kuhn and Alistair Johnson had a fantastic relationship down that right-hand side, and I want to see that again. I want somebody to come in and have that. I wish Nicholas Kuhn all the best. I think he had a fantastic start to the season, but obviously peeled off towards the end, whether that was his head being turned and he kind of knew he wanted away after the Leipzig game. He done an absolute blinder. Obviously played well against Bayern Munich as well. Obviously you alluded to it there, Steve, wanted to impress his home country. I was surprised that he was going to go to Como. What was it, something like €17.5 million, I think it was the price tag. Obviously Celtic have a hefty selling clause on that as well. So yeah, listen, fantastic.
I mean, do you think, in terms of, it'll be interesting to see, of course, we could potentially be, I don't know if we will definitely play them, Quinny, but we'll get the Como Cup, and
yeah, we will.
Quite possible that we could play them there. It'll be interesting to see if he plays against us. Did the final destination for Nicholas Kuhn surprise you, Quinny? Is it maybe is it money or Como, for all that people might say about them, they are quite an up and coming, quite a vibrant, exciting team at this moment in time. Finished 10th in Serie A. They've got Fabregas at the helm, and they look like a team that are investing appropriately, not grotesquely beyond their means, but enough to say that they want to make a stab. And they're probably a team that are looking at obviously climbing the ranks in the league, but maybe doing, you've seen with Mr. Ferguson's team and getting a cup under their belt, a wee short cup win or something like that. So how did you feel that move panned out for you? And likewise, are we going to get that replacement?
I thought the Leipzig move made all the sense in the world because they're losing a lot of players this summer because they're not in the Champions League, they're in the Europa League. And he used to be there, homegrown player. He slayed them in the Champions. It felt like it just kind of all married up and it made a lot of sense. But Como, by all accounts, he's had conversations with Cesc before doing the deal and whatever. Como, like you say, they are kind of plucky up and comers or whatever, but they, strictly speaking, have got the richest owners in Italy at the moment. They're worth like more than anyone else. And they, like, Fabregas rejected Leverkusen to replace Xabi Alonso, and he's rejected Inter Milan to replace Simeone to stay at Como.
Speaks volumes, yes.
Simone Inzaghi, sorry. So I was surprised that they signed him because when the link first came out, it was they're after Kuhn, but there's a list of 4 wingers. And then like 2 or 3 days later, they signed Jesus Rodriguez from Betis, and he's like a wonder kid. He's really popped on the scene over the last 6 months. So I thought, oh, that's probably dead. And that was probably just, it was on a list and someone's tweeted about it or whatever. But they've obviously got him as well. And when you look at their business, like, they're not spending egregious amounts of money, but they're buying a bunch of guys at 15 million, and they're really going for it. They had a really interesting squad last year anyway. And I think this is a really good move for Kuhn because he's only going to be playing weekends at Como. They're not in Europe next year. Going to Leipzig, you'd have, playing weekend, you'd play midweeks, weekends. And I think that was really the thing that caught him this year for us was, this is the head turning thing and all the rest of it. I kind of can go along with that, I guess. But he'd never played more games in his life than he did this year, It was a huge kind of 3-minute marathon kind of thing for him in his life, in his career. So maybe that the Italian league is obviously very ferocious, but it's not quite as frantic as Scotland. He'll get more time on the ball, which might sound like a weird thing to say, but he will get a first touch or two, and despite the team not being dominant or whatever. And I think he'll look at that thinking, playing under Cesc, going weekend to weekend, just trying to aim for top 5, top 6, get paid a wad of money. Like, I think he'll do well. I don't think Como will make money on him, but I think that's probably
like the peak by the lake and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. With his new teeth, he's got his new teeth in now.
Maybe he'll smile a lot more as well. I don't know. Maybe he'll be a happier guy in Como. Maybe some of the sort of Italian calm and coolness will sort of rub off on him a wee bit. But I'm very interested to see if he plays against us. Extremely interested if he plays. Do you know what the first thing he'll do if he does play against us? He'll skin a defender and hit the byline, put a cross in. You can do it. Of course, it'd be nice though, wouldn't it, if he was attacking down that side and it was just Kieran Tierney and just absolutely melted him. Melted him. Just like, this is what you were missing, son. This is a bit of that. But no, listen, we're creeping up on the hour. I just want to quickly before we go, because as well as the outgoings, the two, as I said, we'll come back and we'll do a wee profile. Another one that does appear, and I just want a wee chance to get the thoughts on it, particularly from yourself, from the scouting standpoint, Quinny. The one that seems imminent, that's going to be similar to young Inamura coming straight in, is going to be, of course, Shin Yamada. Another one, completely out of left field, one that I still can't get my head around. Of course, we've now came up with the recent link as well, which we will cover in more detail probably tomorrow. Giuseppe Ambrosino from Napoli, the young striker there. So that's that. But between that potentially happening, Osmond in the door, Ida, Maeda, and of course the Shin Yamada, it's maybe not quite the how shall we say it, striking options that we expected. We expected this one big bang marquee, and of course it was going to be Christegarden. I don't know whether you guys buy into what you read from Sky Germany, doubled down with Sky UK, that there's this mysterious clause that Celtic could have got him cheaper. I know it sounds highly strange, highly unlikely, but a wee bit at the back of your mind also makes me think that it's the kind of thing that Celtic would be so doss not to know. But anyway, I just want a quick whistle stop tour. Thoughts on this chap here? Starting up yourself, Quinn, Mr. Quinney, because Shin Yamada looks as if he's going to come in. He's played his last game, and again, talk about profile. He's not a young guy. He's young compared to probably us, but he's not a young guy. And the numbers, etc., do not seem to really get me excited and stack up. I actually look at these numbers and I think I actually prefer the look of young Osmond compared to him. There we go. I've got him up here. As you can see, he's 25. Familiar team that he's playing at, Kawasaki from Tally, because of course we got the great Hayato from there. Absolute bargain buy. But yeah, when we bring up his stats for his seasons as a striker, they don't exactly get you filling up with the enthusiasm to say that this guy is suddenly going to be the answer. 125 games, 37 goals, and if we look at that 25 season current run off there, it's a mere 4 goals in just over 20 games. So talk to me, lads. Start with yourself, Quinny. Have you done any features on him as a player?
Yeah, we actually had a great J-League expert on, Alan, to talk about him. Alan's a guy I've known for a few years, just through following the J-League through other stuff and whatever. Quite in the know character, hilarious as well in his own special way. I recommend you check it out if you haven't already. We talked to Inamura and Yamada in that one. The main question I had for Alan was compare him to Kyogo, in terms of level, in terms of type, in terms of anything you want to think about, what is the differences here. And the answer was quite simple. He's nothing like Kyogo. He's probably not even seen as having the potential of being that level in terms of output and whatever. But a guy that's much more of like a centre forward, could maybe play a bit of the false nine, drop a bit deeper, play some more football. Last year, he had a really good season scoring punches and bunches. He had like 8 goals over 6 games or something like that. Had a few spells like that, which is nice to see. But this year, very much the opposite. Not really gained minutes all the same. But I've seen this before across Asia between the J and the K League where a guy gets hot, they think they're going to move to Europe, it falls through. They're still in Japan, but they know they're going to be leaving soon and they kind of go off the boil. Sometimes it ultimately works out. Sometimes they just lose their kind of their zest and they maybe kind of die off the career-wise as a result or whatever. But I wouldn't, I'm not reading as much into his form this season but what my concern with Shin Yamada is we already have Ida, we already have Osmond in the building. We're not going to buy a 4th striker, are we? So we're not actually going to replace Kyogo if that's the case. It's going to be Ida with those 2 guys as like cover, and maybe we play Dyson through there depending on the opposition or how things actually pan out with some other positions potentially. So it kind of underwhelms me when I think about it from that point of view. He's 25 as well, so you've not got that same uplift potential as you do with Inamura. And
that surprised me was the age profile. I mean, he's cheap, but again, the age profiles has surprised me. I thought if we're getting him in maybe earlier 20s, so 21, 22, I could see but he's a guy that's very much at this moment in time, you could argue is going to be pretty much the player that he's going to be.
Yeah, and that's kind of feels more like an O replacement rather than a Kyogo replacement, and it feels like kind of Osmond, we already spoke about, has the potential to do that role, and we still need a Kyogo replacement. So it's a weird one. Again, I'm sure once we get him in the hoops, we'll all fall in love with him and he'll score a screamer or he'll do something cool at one point or whatever. but when you see it, it's just a bit weird, isn't it? It's just like, come on, for the Champions League, man. Come on, where's the Kyogo replacement?
Exactly. And yourself, Paddy, I'll let you have the final word before we finish up. Shin Yamada, I think we briefly touched on. Now that this looks like something that, as we say, is pretty much it's going to happen, whether you want it or you don't want it. Interesting, particularly there off the extra info that Quinny's been able to give us there, because people were rewriting history about Owen, how he's turned a corner and, fine order supposedly interesting. It sounded a wee bit more like O to me, but O the upshot of being younger. So, are we reverting back?
You alluded to it there. I mean, the guy's pretty much reached his prime, and his numbers don't really fill me with enthusiasm. You think back to last season, we were talking about Adam Ida, how he had a poor season and things like that. He scored 20 goals, and the amount of time that he played to score the 20 goals was pretty decent. Do you know what I mean? He had a decent return when you actually look back on it, and we expected more because he fluffed a few chances. This season, Daisy Maeda's obviously came out. I don't know if it's there's truth in it, whatever. But obviously, I'd seen the report that Daismeda says he would like to play through the middle, so that we give him a better chance when it comes to Japan going forward for
Let
the World
him
Cup.
do it. Give him what he wants.
100%. Listen, play him through the middle. He's not let us down. You need that through there. We've got wingers coming out of ears. We'll bring in somebody else that's going to drive to the byline, somebody with a bit of pace. Obviously, we'll get Jota coming back at some point as well. I think play Dyson through the middle. Have him as your main striker. Have Adamida as your number 2. And then you've got Osmond there as well. Put Kenny out on loan. For me, you don't really need anyone else. Unless the doctor has seen this guy and thinks that he can maybe bring him in and have him as a, like you say, Steve, like an old number 10.
I don't, but I choose to believe the doctor's net does not cast as far as the Asian market. I'm having none of it. Again, I'll suck it and see, but when he comes over, I'll start my judgments, like we've said with Inamura. Hopefully it works out well, but again, it comes back to me. I want to know who's scouting these guys, because we could get that tangible reach whenever we had Ange in the door. But we've bought a guy, and hopefully it turns out well. He was played for a team we were 19th in the J League. Terrible. Hardly any games on his belt, so now we're signing a guy playing for another terrible team as a striker with a fairly terrible return rate. Look, as what it is, but we've got to be a wee bit cynical as Celtic fans this time of the year. But listen, that's it. Thank you very much. I've rambled on enough, and I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching us, joining us live. Thank you, of course. Do I need to thank you, Paddy? It's expected to use it, not, isn't it? It's expected of you, isn't it? But no. And thank you to Quinny for coming on.
Thank you, Paddy. Thanks a lot, Paddy.
Thanks, Quinny.
We all appreciate you, Paddy. We really do. I know. I can wind you up, but no. And thank you for yourself, Quinny, for coming on. So it's always a pleasure to have you on. And as I say, up the standard here. And apologies if it's not quite been super slick, Steve-O. You're going to get this for a couple of weeks. I have got a 8-week initial recovery period. There's going to be a lot of painkillers. I'm going to be a wee bit sort of ditzy at times, and I'm going to be sitting here, Charles Green style, in the recovery bed. It's not going to be a smooth setup, but we'll be here, and that's the most important here, because Celtic World are here. Paddy, we're always here. Sometimes we're a wee bit delayed, but we're always here. So thank you very much for everybody joining us. We'll come back out, as it says, all these players that we've mentioned and in passing, we'll come on, we'll do a proper deep dive. We'll talk to you about them, give us our thoughts on them. We just wanted to do a wee catch-up, get ourselves back in the swing of things, and let you know that we're still here. If you want a wee bit more Celtic World Order content that's elsewhere, then go to Axom and check out the This Is Axom episode that I done with Paul John Diggs. I was very privileged enough to be invited as his featured guest for the Friday This Is Axom. That was pre-operation, where I had my full compass bent, everything about me, and it was a great chat. And I just once again want to thank him very much for that. And to everybody's kind words, it seems that people have enjoyed that. So thank you very much. Go and check that out. And of course, support them, support all the other Celts are here, all the other channels that are out there doing great work in the Celtic fan media content. So that is us for tonight. Hope you've enjoyed pre-season starting. Hope you've enjoyed, is it the first trophy of the season, Quinny? Did we count it? Is it?
I think the barometer is, would they count it?
Aye.
Is it up there with ceramics from around the world?
It's better than a bike anyway, isn't it?
That's but yeah, we joke. There's plenty more to come. Hopefully it'll ramp up. So listen, thank you very much to all you. Thank you two guys on screen. We'll get ourselves out your hair. Until next time, take care. God bless, and as always,